I'm just gonna play app games while you guys talk on this episode. Is that cool?
What is the...
No, this is your fucking episode. You have to talk.
Yeah, I'm gonna be playing Death Star, Tiny Death Star though. I'm gonna be really busy.
Is that a sequel to Tiny Tower?
Yeah,
Tiny Death Star?
yeah.
Really?
It's made by the same people. It's adorable. It's not a sequel. It's the same game, just with Star Wars themes on it.
View from the Gutters presents The Long Run, Episode 8. The Long Run is an episode that gives us a chance to talk about books too long to discuss on a regular episode. On this episode, we discuss Stephanie Brown. To see the complete reading list of what we read, visit our website at viewfromthegutters.com.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah, I think
I'm Tiny Death Star's loaded up. I can see it through the pop screen. So we're good to go. Welcome to the long run, everybody.
Yeah.
What long run is this? Do we know?
Number 8.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We have done 2 complete circuits.
Wow.
We have. Yay! And surprisingly, I never fucking learn and always end up reading all of the material we are going to talk about in the week leading up to the fucking episode.
Yeah.
This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
And to all the listeners out there who didn't read all of the material for this episode, 160 random issues of Robin from the 90s, consider yourself lucky.
Yeah, you're not allowed to listen to the episode, actually.
Yeah, you can't just turn
That
it off
was
now.
that entry.
That's not a rule.
Because
I'm
unless
pretty sure
you've
it is.
suffered as we have suffered and
Oh my
bled
God.
as we have
Oh,
bled.
was this worse than reading Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose?
Oh God, no,
Yeah,
it was
not
actually.
even
Thank you
fucking
for
close.
putting that in stark.
Yeah.
But I only read 40 issues of Tarot.
Yeah.
And
all of this combined plus twice this much would have still have not been as bad.
well, but it ended with. I mean, first of all, it had the Batgirl with Cassandra Cain, and,
Which is amazing.
which is awesome, and it ended with Batgirl, which. I was thinking about this as I came down here, and I guess to get us rolling, I'll say this: if the beginning of what we read, which was Robin in the 90s, written by Chuck Dixon, is what made me not want to read superhero comics, Batgirl, Brian Q. Miller's Batgirl, which is what we finished this on, is everything that makes me want to read superhero comics. And having that bookend is really, really interesting.
I agree entirely.
It's part of the reason why when I made the list, I wanted to not only start at the beginning, but like really dig into what Batman comics were like at that time, which means reading more than just the 3-issue Detective and the like 10 or so issues of Robin. It means reading like an extended amount of time, because this was part of the era in which comics began to become so
overarching.
No, it's the word I'm looking for. Decompressed. That's the word I'm looking for. Is where it takes them 20, 30 issues to get through one conversation between Robin and Ariana.
Yeah,
like that kind of
ridiculous.
pulling teeth is like what we got to in the 90s.
Before we get too deep into this, there is one thing that I want to say first, though.
What is that?
I'm Tobiah Panchin.
Yeah, I made a chart.
I may be Joe Preddy.
Speak
And I'm Ken
definitively.
Reynolds.
Yeah. We got Cade here. We got everybody.
I'm Batman.
Sorry to step on your line, Kate. So I'm sorry, Jared. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is what, it's the 90s. We've had the 80s. We've had the rebirth of stuff like Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns. We've had Crisis on Infinite Earths to reset the universe. Like, things are moving in a modern direction. There's the direct market, which means you can start series. You don't have to go a continuation of a previous series. Like, when The Flash comes out, like, he starts in Showcase, and then he adopts the numbering of the previous Flash book. In the Silver Age, he adopted the Golden Age Flash numbering. And part of the reason why that exists is because in grocery stores didn't want to order books in the low numbers. Like, they didn't want to order a number 1, because how do they know that book's going to sell? But if a comic book is in the 200s, like, of course they're going to order it, right? So, like, our mindset has changed so much since then to where now neither DC nor Marvel has a book over 50, let alone 100.
I think
Like,
Marvel's highest numbered book right now is 35.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Well,
Like, it's a massive change from this era of comics. So part of the reason why I put in a lot of issues that were of questionable content was not only because we need to talk about shit like that, like the Stephanie Brown pregnancy, but
oh my God,
but
so much hate.
So a lot of people look back on that fondly, and I guess we can just jump right into that right now.
Well, I'd actually like to start a little bit earlier.
Okay,
I want to start with Robin.
Yeah.
In the 90s, Chuck Dixon.
Yeah.
This was just so ridiculously banal.
Yeah.
It drove me up the fucking wall. It is everything that I hate and find unbelievable about Batman stories, where he's like cruising around in the suburbs in his hot rod, fighting like random gangsters that he just runs into at every turn. Like he's got his own weird version of Commissioner Grayson in Sergeant Shotgun, whatever the fuck his name.
Yeah, I love that guy.
It's just,
oh God,
so much about this was just pointless and banal. And it's like, here's a 6-issue arc where he fights gangsters, and then we're going to do another 6-issue arc where he fights gangsters, and then gangsters are going to show up, and it's like, what the fuck is the point of all of this?
The point is to put out a monthly book, you know? Like, it's just that thing where you've got an audience, you've got the Batman audience, it's built in, and these are the teens. This is me as a kid reading Robin and devouring it. Like, I couldn't get enough of this.
Like, if you're, and that's kind of the thing, like, you're 12 years old. It's 1990, what? 91?
91
it's even earlier than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's I thought it was, and then I like second guessed myself. It's 1991. You're 12 years old, or in my case, much older.
I was much younger.
47.
And you're just like, this is so fucking cool, man. Like, Robin's got his own, and it's like, there are definitely elements of this that I for one, I love to see Batman fighting random gang members because I think it works really well. But like, I think the word that Toby left out that I would use to describe it is insipid. Well, it's without any kind of inspiration. And I understand that was the grind in the 90s. It was like, put out that fucking book, put out that next book.
Part two of that is, this is the, like, reading it for this run was the first time I ever read it in order, reading every issue, because again, the second part about being a kid in the 90s and reading comics is trade paperbacks don't fucking exist. Like, if they do, they're for like Dark Phoenix Saga and Watchmen and maybe one other story. Yeah. Like, they're there, but they're not really there. Like, and especially no one's collecting fucking Robin. Like, no one's going to collect that. If they're not collecting Batman, they're not going to collect Robin. So you never read it in order. You never read all the issues. So, like, it doesn't really matter that he fights gangsters 16 times because you maybe read 4 of those issues and you read them out of order, so you can't change the status quo too much. This is such a product of that environment of, hey, we went down to the Circle K, or we went down, in my case, to Fred Meyer. That's why I bought all my comics. Like, it's just, that was such a different distribution method. And although we had comic book stores, the mass majority of people did not have access to those stores, and they weren't popular like they are now.
Well, and I think, I think your point is, I mean, when in 93, I was 16, I was working, and I had like a comic book allowance because my dad knew.
But you had.
That if I had my whole paycheck, I'd spend it all on fucking comic books.
Yeah.
But like, before that, when I was young in like the late 80s, it was what was there. It was like, I would walk into the grocery store and I'd be like, oh, this looks cool, Mom. Will you get this for me? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. And like we talked about it on Nightfall. For years, the only thing I knew about Nightfall was that issue where he fights Zaz. Yeah. I had that issue, like the Death and Return of Superman. For years, I only had like random,
right?
You know, like I knew who Bloodwind was because I had that fucking issue.
And also,
I am so sorry that you had to have that issue.
It's also pre-Wikipedia too, so you couldn't go online and really like.
Yeah, you had to go to the comic book store and ask the expert grognards who hung out there, like, right. What is this thing about?
Yeah. And none of them really wanted to fucking talk to a little kid anyway. Like, they're like, who's reading that? I'm reading cool books like Spawn.
I lucked out,
and Youngbloods.
Like, my local comic book shop had the guy that ran it, who was the brother. It was like a satellite store for one of the bigger comic stores in Albuquerque. And it was his brother that owned the business. And he was just running the satellite store. So he didn't give a fuck. He would just be like, buy this. It's really expensive. And I'm like, whatever, dude, fuck you. But there was a younger guy, probably in his early 20s, who did 2 very cool things for me. He taught me about comic books, and he also taught me how to play Mortal Kombat 2.
Nice.
So I could
never
meet my
learned
brother.
that.
No, I'm still shitty at that.
Well,
I always want to be cool.
I've always wanted to do a fatality.
Yeah.
No, I actually pulled off Kung Lao, man. First fatality I ever pulled off, and it felt great.
Wow, that's impressive.
And then one day, some like 6-year-old came in and just kept hitting the low kick button and beat me like out of like $3, and I almost kicked the shit out of him in real life.
Got mopped by a 6-year-old.
God!
I always wondered, going occasionally we go to the arcade and there'd be people playing the fighting games. And it's like, how do you know what the moves are?
Yeah.
It doesn't tell you.
No, there's like
sometimes they would be printed on the sides of the arcade cabinets if you were lucky.
Yeah. So,
other times it's just like you hit the buttons if they do something.
Yeah, but learning to like combo them together was very much like a board game where you would like have to ask someone to like teach you how to play.
Yeah, like you'd have to sit there while other people were playing and like watch them and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And actually have somebody care enough to tell you.
Yeah.
It's a very different time.
Well, I feel like comic books were a lot like that too, you know? Like, what should I buy? What should I get? Like, there was this was like in the very early days of Wizard magazine and stuff like that, and kids didn't fucking know anything about that
like
shit.
you were, if you were on the internet at this time, you were incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
Like
you
were one
were
of the few.
dialing up to a local fucking BBS.
Also, you would have to wait 4.5 hours for a webpage to load, so you could look at shitty pictures of a Robin and be like, that's
and
awesome.
that's where that whole, I mean, this is fun. This is like the comic book guy on The Simpsons, right? Like, he's born out of that whole, like, would wait to have a conversation over 6 hours with somebody over the latest issue of Amazing Spider-Man. Like, I remember this guy, Willie was his name, and he was like, we had a small con in Albuquerque, and Sal Buscema was going to be there. And he's like, I'm going to take my Spider-Man comics to get signed by Sal Buscema, and I'm going to tell him that his recent work sucks. Which should kind of tell you how old I am, because Sal Buscema hasn't worked in comics for quite some time.
Maybe it's because his work sucked so bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, apparently. And I just could not believe it's like now I'm like, yeah, I can totally understand that. But then I was like mortified. I'm like, you can't do that to people, can you? Now I'm just like, if I saw Jeff Johns again, I'd be like, thank you for ruining everything that I love.
Except for Superman.
It's good to have Joe back on the show.
And I did that simply because I knew that you guys...
We missed it. We did. No, we didn't.
So let's get back onto the topic of Robin.
So
we have the entrance of Stephanie Brown.
Yes.
In one of the ugliest costumes that has ever existed in superhero comics.
Purple, man.
That with the fucking like the ring on it and the like different purple colored bikini.
Forget about the thigh belt.
Oh, dude, I love the thigh belt.
Pointless thigh belt.
Don't talk shit about thigh belts. Thigh belts are awesome.
Oh no! Excuse me, Mr. Liefeld. You can just fuck right off. All right.
They don't. They're non-functional in real life.
Yeah.
There's a reason no one uses them.
They actually say that in an issue of Batgirl. There's nothing in this when he pulls it off.
I actually found myself getting incredibly angry at this comic book and at Chuck Dixon specifically for the way that Stephanie Brown is portrayed in these early issues. Because Tim Drake is a dick to her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just over and over and over again, where he's like, I like you, Stephanie, but I have a girlfriend. Go home. Hey, hang out with me. Like... He's just this weird fucking mix of like, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you.
I think the word you're looking for is teenager.
Yes.
But he is a teenager, but this is my problem, is that it would be different maybe if the feeling of the book wasn't that Stephanie is only there so that Robin can wax and wane and like. Yeah. Again, I mean,
I can see that argument, except that I think that she's a vital part of the Cluemaster story, and those stories are about her, in which Robin plays a side role, even though he's the titular character. Like he's sort of a side character in those stories.
And I don't disagree with you. It just makes the fact that he's being a dick to her all the more egregious.
Right.
And the thing is that while that might be a realistic characteristic for a teenager, it's not a good characteristic for the protagonist of a story.
I don't.
It made me hate Tim Drake. Let me put it that way.
That's fine.
I mean, I didn't.
Sometimes you hate sometimes you hate the main character of a thing. Like
I don't really think that you should hate the main character of the thing that you're reading.
I hated the main character of many things.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it works.
I think that it can work in the right circumstances. I think the problem is that while I agree with you, she does have moments in those early
where she
appearances.
like meets her father on top of the water tower or whatever, and just like punches him right in the fucking face. Like any time that she attacks her dad, I'm like,
I'm totally a fan of it. Like there's a few things that really kind of there's a few moments in those early appearances with her and her dad where you're like, okay, you have thought about this, but like I don't ever feel like that happens and then we immediately go back to the fact that she's just like a leaf on the fucking
she is an object for Robin to emote at throughout most of these early stories.
Yeah,
and
I could see. I mean, she is a character as a part of these books. Like, she has motivation. Like, if she didn't have any motivation, she wouldn't be spoiler.
That's
right?
true.
Like, she
and
wants
I'm not
to
arguing
be a crime
with you.
fighter.
I'm not saying that she doesn't have a character. I'm saying that she is not a well-treated character.
No, and again, like, I don't want to just be like, it's a product of its time, but like, it kind of was. And the reason that Spoiler didn't have her own book, even though she was like Wizard Character's best side character of the year, like 2 or 3 times, like, she didn't have her own book because female characters didn't get their own books unless they were like super legacy female characters like Wonder Woman and Catwoman. And that's like, you look at DC at that
did
time.
Did Catwoman even have her own series at
she
this
did
point?
it this time, yeah.
She did.
Okay.
Because in 92, she definitely had one by then. So
All right.
it was like slightly
done
before
by,
that.
you know who was doing Catwoman around that time.
yeah.
Well, that would have been in the wake of Batman Returns.
Yeah.
So-
And,
oh, yeah, definitely.
Everybody's favorite Jim Ballant was
Jim
doing
Ballant was
Catwoman
drawing
right around
Catwoman.
that time.
Yeah, around Cataclysm and Contagion and stuff. Like Ballant was drawing
He
that.
he does stuff in No Man's Land.
Yes.
But I find myself agreeing with what Toby has said, which is that I really do feel that her motivation, it's not that she doesn't have motivation, it's that I feel that oftentimes her motivation is eclipsed by the fact that, like, Tim Drake is like, I don't know what to do. I really like this girl. And, like, that, I think, is something, it's not so much that that's a thing that's happening, but it's, yeah, dude, I've been a teenage dude. I've experienced that as a full-grown person. Like, I really dig this girl. But, like, I've got a good thing going over here.
I got this other girl.
And it's kind of weird because Chuck Dixon has created this interesting, compelling character. And it seems like there are times where he doesn't know what to do with her.
Yeah.
Like, you've got Robin kind of just treating her like just being a dick to her. And even at this point, you feel like, Stephanie deserves more. Like, she's got interesting things going on.
Yeah.
They should not be just dismissing her out of hand in the way that they are.
I think in the early stuff, it's really interesting, though, because I am not sure that Tim really feels the way he feels about her. Like, like he's like, oh, she's a cool girl or whatever. But, like, I feel like Stephanie's almost playing Tim in those early issues, right?
I think the thing that kind of frustrates me about it is that every once in a while, Chuck Dixon will hit on this thing where Stephanie and Robin are both talking about the excitement. That's why they choose to put on these garish costumes and go about gallivanting, is the excitement. And I feel like a few times he touches on them as their touchstone to each other. Mm-hmm. But then, like, I feel like he dances away from that. And I really feel that, like, I have to throw somebody under the bus. I'll just throw Stephanie under the bus.
But Stephanie's she's very few times that she actually, like, damseled. Like, Robin is damseled more often than Stephanie in these stories.
And that's what's
which I find interesting. And also, I think that she's playing him in a lot of ways because when it comes to the pregnancy arc, it's not Tim's baby. It's a different dude's baby, right? Like, she's clearly got side dudes to this Tim Drake guy, right?
Not only how relentlessly unsatisfying, annoying, frustrating, fucking ridiculous that whole pregnancy storyline is.
It's so ridiculous.
It's like, we'll give this, and this is, I mean, it's not really a fridging, but this is something that's done to women time and time again, right? It's like, we'll just give them a baby, and then we'll just fuck around. It's like, no, that's really kind of fucked up.
Here's the thing is that I feel like this whole thing is Chuck Dixon soapboxing.
Oh,
and she's like,
oh, yeah.
I'm pregnant. We're not going to, we haven't introduced the father as a character. We're not going to name him. He is not a presence in this story at any point.
Later, he's in it.
Is he?
She punches him in the face at one point. He shows up. Did I not put that?
I don't remember that happening.
That she's like she's doing laundry or something, and he like comes into the backyard to see her, and she like punches him.
Yeah, I do not remember reading that part. It's in like a small
part of the issue.
But
anyway, he's like
in any
nameless
case,
and faceless for a long time.
Nameless and faceless. And the entire arc seems to be designed specifically so that Stephanie Brown can repeatedly stand up to people and go, like, I would never think of aborting this baby.
Exactly.
Like, I'm going to carry it and then I'm going to give it up for adoption. Look at how great and selfless I am.
Oh, absolutely.
All you fucking, like, leftist readers out there who are pro-abortion, like, this is Chuck Dixon fucking hitting you over the head with how wrong he thinks you are.
It's this is the male conservative fantasy. The young woman who's going to get pregnant by a dude who's irresponsible, but instead of making the decision to abort the baby, he's like, no, the right thing to do would be to have 9 months of painful childbirth and medical bills and then bear the child and then give it up for adoption because that's in no way painful or harmful to the mother's psyche in any way.
And do you ever hear about the baby again?
No. Well, yeah.
I mean, they talk about it.
You see it. Yeah, in one issue of it was the Secret Origin issue of Teen Titans that I gave you guys. She's telling the baby the story of like her and her father.
Right.
That's the
only flashback.
In a flashback. That's the
But like
only
once she
time
gives it up,
see it.
like that just completely disappears out of her life. Except they mention like once.
Yeah,
that she had a baby.
To Batgirl, yeah.
And it's just, God, it's so. I don't even quite know how to put into terms how upsetting I found it. Because again, like I feel like it dehumanizes Stephanie.
Absolutely.
Because it's just turning her into this mouthpiece through which Chuck Dixon can moralize. And it's not the only time he does it. It's the worst instance, but it fucking rankled me. There's one scene where Stephanie is talking to her mom and her mom says something like, ignore it and then it'll go away or whatever. And Stephanie's like, that's what they said about the Clintons. It's like, really, Chuck Dixon?
Yeah.
Really? You're going to throw a fucking, like, Clinton's joke into the mouth of this, like, blonde teenage girl from the suburbs? Like,
she hates comics.
In no dimension did that sound like anything that an actual teenager would ever say.
I totally agree.
I think we can all agree that she hates commies. But the weird thing for me was the soapboxing with the pregnancy issue, and then the really weird anti-gun two-parter with Robin and his friend with the gun, and like
that gets shot in the school.
That gets shot in the school, and like the whole because I was like,
It was weird. It was like a gun control issue about high school, which is something that like doesn't get brought up a lot in comics, it doesn't. For sure. But it was an odd take for Chuck Dixon to have on that, which is like, let's keep guns out of our schools. And then again, it was never like, but what about the dad that owned the gun?
Well, and like, that's the weird thing about me is that Jack Drake goes to see him and is pretty much like, are you a fucking idiot? You gave your son a gun to bring to school. Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And like, that's never, there's the kid's dad never has this like grand overarching justification. He's just kind of like, oh, we gotta protect ourselves and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But it like, Jack Drake leaves that conversation and it definitely seems like the gist of that is like, this is a fucking stupid idea. You should not be giving your children guns.
Yeah.
And so like, I was kind of like reading that in juxtaposition with the pregnancy issue was like really, really weird. And I'm not saying that like, I'm sure Chuck Dixon is a person. He's multifaceted, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But
it
like,
still was a mouthpiece for Chuck Dixon.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
Here's Chuck Dixon's views on the world. Bleeding. And like, we see that with Frank Miller. We see that in Dark Knight Returns. Like, we see that a lot. Like, sometimes you should just let your characters like have their own moral stance, their own viewpoints, rather than just being a mouthpiece for your own viewpoints.
Yeah. But
well, that also to mention, I do want to mention that arc, the pregnancy arc, won an award in Wizard magazine for like writing in a teen book or something.
This is Wizard magazine, who also fucking.
It wasn't something talked about a lot at the time, especially in the realm of comic books.
But it was handled so poorly that it's hard to like...
I mean, it's like Chuck Dixon proselytizing for...
No, I mean, that's true. I'm not...
6-8 issues.
I mean, Cade, you're right. That's probably
I'm not saying it was awesome.
Yeah.
I am saying, though, that it was a big deal.
That's probably why it won, though, to be honest. It's just like, this is a subject no one talks about. And it's like, I don't know that novelty is enough to really... that stuff. And novelty works for me a lot of times, but not in that instance.
Well, yeah, I mean,
not when it's like, here's a real world issue that's like actually a world issue, let's put it into comic books. I'm talking about novelty where it's like there's a robot with a bear head. Like, that's what I'm talking about now.
If Chuck Dixon had more bareheaded robots in this, I think we all would have been a lot happier reading it.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Less
Robin up
thugs.
against the Legion of bareheaded robots, I'm fucking there. Like, sign me up. I want a subscription.
There is one other moment in these early Robin issues that I wanted to talk about it, and it's when Batman reveals Tim Drake's secret identity to Stephanie Brown, and Tim Drake throws a fucking hissy fit about it. And that just really bugged the shit out of me because he's known Stephanie Brown's identity for over a year at this point. And he flips his shit because she knows who he is. And I feel like it's not about the fact that Batman revealed his secret identity for him, even though that's what he says it is.
I think it is about that.
I felt that it was more that the fact that he knew her identity and she didn't know his gave him power and leverage over Stephanie Brown.
Robin, which
like it's one more element in the fact that he's a tremendous douche to her.
Yeah.
Like he has all this power in the relationship, and the second that like she finds out who he is, he's like, I quit being Robin.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like that just seems like a ridiculous overreaction.
Do we have a final count on exactly how many times he quits being Robin in this run?
Oh,
it's like
God, all the
seriously
fucking
3 or
I think
4
it's like
times.
at least 3 or 4.
Yeah, like, I'm not Robin. I'm Robin again. I'm not Robin. And like, reading it in the way we did, it's incredibly disjointing because, like, you'll read an issue and be like, I'm no longer Robin. And then you'll pick up you start the next issue and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm Robin again.
That's kind of what it was like at the time, too, though, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, so you got to sell the comic books, right? But like,
I agree with Toby. It was weird because it gave him, like, all this, you know, like, he would show up at her house.
Yeah.
But he knew that she was never going to show up at his house, right? Like, that was like a booty call moment where he's like, I can come to you, but you can't come,
the
you can't
whole,
come
like,
to me.
There's a power trip.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to have a date. I'll be Robin and you be Stephanie Brown. I'm like, all right, really?
When he
That's
shows
what
up
we're
in
really gonna
costume.
fucking do? Yeah, I'm just like, fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Fuck yourself right off a goddamn building.
But I think that this is all the beginning of, like, Stephanie Brown trusting Robin, trusting Tim Drake, and kind of, like, getting in over her head with dudes and the world because she's really trusting as a person. She's, like, she's nice, she's cool, she's, like, a person that I would, you know, consider, like, a quote-unquote good person. You know, like, she has the best intentions for a lot of the things that she does. And it's why she so desperately wants to be this vigilante. It's not about beating people up. It's about helping people. And, like, although Robin, quote unquote, teaches her all that stuff, it's like the drive that...
Yeah, well, I think that all of Batman's acolytes get into the vigilante business for different reasons. And I think that Stephanie actually probably has one of the most pure altruistic motivations of any of the Bat family characters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, she's doing it because she wants to make up for all the shit that her father did.
Yeah.
Like, not out of guilt, not out of, like, a need for revenge or anger or any of the other reasons that these people are doing it, but just like, I want the world to be a better place than it is.
Yeah,
Right.
I've seen a bad guy. I'm going to be a good guy.
Right. And I love that. I love that. That's that's what drew a lot of people to that character. And I think that for
she's
a
an
long
underdog.
time, Chuck Dixon didn't understand why that's why people liked her. Like, he accidentally created an amazing character.
Which is ridiculous.
And you can see that over the course of, like, that next 30 issues or whatever. Is like, he didn't quite know what to do with this character. It wasn't until other people started to really, like, take her under their wing that, like, interesting stories about her began to be told.
And it's when she becomes Robin at the beginning of War Drums.
I think it's even a little bit before when she starts to train with Batgirl.
Yes.
Those Batgirl
I'm
issues.
sorry. You're absolutely right.
That's
I think
really
that
when you start to see
the
who
writer,
she is.
I don't remember who was writing Batgirl at that time.
I think it was...
I'm going to look it up real quick.
Yeah.
There is one
damn.
quick comment that I wanted to make before we get into that, though.
Yeah.
And that is, I grew up in the suburbs, and it pissed me the fuck off how many times they have these ridiculously, like, 20-page conversations, like standing on top of roofs and, like, driving cars around in the suburbs, and nobody ever fucking notices.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up in the suburbs. If
You would
two people
fucking
were standing on the roof of a house having a conversation, everyone would know it.
Yeah.
Like, there is no way on this
so-
earth that Stephanie Brown could possibly have a secret identity with Robin coming and going from her house every other fucking night.
I'm going to respond to you in the way that Denny O'Neil would, which is to say, why doesn't the Batmobile ever get stuck in traffic? Because these are comic books.
Yeah.
You
Because
have to
Batman
suspend that
has
part of
a
your decision.
wireless device that hooks up into the city's phone or traffic system that turns all the lights green.
I mean, if that's the story you want to tell, because turning all the lights green would cause even more impenetrable traffic.
That's absolutely
No, the
true.
ones he wants green.
Yeah.
And the others.
It's
He's got this complex algorithm in the Batmobile that he hits the button of where he's going to go, and it gets all the traffic away from that area.
Yeah.
You guys can continue telling
Sure.
yourself these elaborate lies. We all know why.
I mean, I'm with Joe on that one. Is like the story would not be very interesting if they couldn't do that. But I don't think that it's that out of the way to like make Stephanie Brown live in the city instead of the suburbs. Like it's
No,
a weird
I
choice
agree.
that he made them live in the suburbs.
Well, and I
like-
think part of it was there were some of the storylines where it was like, oh, don't worry, we don't live in Gotham, we live in the suburbs.
Yeah.
And I felt a lot of the time that there was this line being drawn where it was like, the poor people live in Gotham, the ones who are better off live in the suburbs.
Yeah,
But-
I could see that.
So I wanted to mention some of my early impressions. When I
Yeah.
went into this, I was going to read all the crossover stuff. So like Nightfall, because the first few issues of this had John Paul Valley as Batman instead of Bruce.
Yeah, because the
Yeah, for
series
those of you that
starts
missed that.
because of Nightfall. Azrael is Batman. Robin is like, this isn't a partnership anymore, and he
Yep.
leaves. That's the issue I remember reading as a kid, and I was like, "Is that a robot Batman?" Like, because you just don't fucking know. Like, you have no
Is
idea.
Batman a robot now?
Yeah, and
that's
I was like-
fucking awesome.
I was like, Bruce Wayne retired, and now there's a robot Batman. I love this book. That never happened, but
it was
wouldn't
it was
it have
Chuck
been
Dixon
so-
still writing Batgirl.
yeah, it is, which
Yeah.
is weird.
that is weird.
It is.
So I did the whole Nightfall thing.
Yeah,
I had the Contagion
yeah.
was a book I actually really like, written by Chuck Dixon.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, that one doesn't really get into the side drama. It's
Yeah.
like it's a bunch of different titles crossover,
Yeah.
and so each issue's like kind of focusing on a different person. You don't get a lot of that melodrama. You get the I'm going to solve this mystery and it's going to be cool kind of stuff. And then I did Final Night because there was an issue of this, or two issues, I think, rather, that it was like Gotham's covered in snow.
Yeah.
And like I'm like, why the fuck is there snow?
Yeah.
So I went out and read Final Night because I had forgot everything that happens. And then I got to Cataclysm and No Man's Land, and I was just like,
There's a lot of issues in there, man. There's a reason I skipped.
Well,
like,
there's 80 just in No Man's Land.
I was just like, fuck this. No more crossovers. I'm just going to read this stuff for the long run, and that's it.
Yeah, the one that I did include was all of War Games, War Drums, War Crimes, because I didn't really know how to like cut around a lot of that stuff without losing
Well,
a ton of
I
information.
think you need to do that. Yeah, you needed to have all that together because it puts in. I think
It puts things into perspective.
it puts things
Yeah.
in perspective, and it also gives you like what happens to Stephanie Brown in War Games is to me one of the most egregious fridgings.
I absolutely
of
agree.
Comics,
I want
ever.
to talk a little bit about War Drums first, though,
Sure.
which is
because
yeah.
first of all, I thought Stephanie was awesome as Robin.
Oh, yeah.
she
I
totally
love her
is.
Robin costume.
Yep.
And I think it's dick the way that Batman treats her
Yeah.
in that series because
absolutely.
we've seen like Robin getting training, like going around the world training with masters, being
Yep.
leveled up.
Yeah.
And Batman's like, okay, Stephanie, I'm going to bring you in. If you fuck up even once, you're done.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to help you, Batman. Okay, you're done. It's like, what? That's
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Like, you obviously think that she's talented enough to do the job,
Yeah.
but you have absolutely no interest in training her or giving her any kind of respect.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, you fucked up one time.
Yeah.
You're done forever.
Well-
Like, how many times did fucking Tim Drake or Dick Grayson or any of those people disobey Batman.
Constantly disobeying
That's
him.
the reason, though. That's the reason he's a dick to her, is because he's fucking insane now. Like, he was always insane, but now he's extra paranoid insane. Where, like, when he's gonna train her, he doesn't take her into the Bat Cave and train her like he trained Dick and like he trained Tim Drake. And, he didn't train Tim Drake. Like, he trained Jason Todd. You know, when Tim became Robin, when Tim became Robin, he sent Robin around the world to train with other masters. When Stephanie becomes Robin, he sends her to Batgirl. Like, he doesn't even really train her that much, you know? He's kind of like distancing himself from her right away, and it's because of what happened after Jason Todd died. Like, he didn't really want another Robin, and Tim Drake made Batman take a Robin. Yeah. And so he's like sort of comfortable with the idea of it now. But there's still a part of him that like couldn't handle the loss of another Robin. It's not that she fucks up. It's that he tells her, if you disobey a direct order from me, which is exactly what got Jason Todd killed. Yeah. Is he's like, don't go in there. And he goes in there. Like, that's literally what it is. And so Batman is like, if you're not willing to do exactly what I say 100% of the time, we cannot be a partnership, because he doesn't trust her to make decisions that are going to get her killed. Like,
I'm not saying that it's a bad story.
It only takes that one time fucking up for her to be dead.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that's a bad story beat. I'm saying that it made me angry at Batman, because you have somebody here who obviously has the talent and the drive, and nobody's willing to give her a chance. Like, at every single turn, people are like, no, go home.
Yep.
Don't do this.
Yeah.
And she doesn't listen to any of them.
Yeah.
And she keeps fighting. And like, there's a lot to like about a character like that.
And this is why I'm going to 100% disagree with Joe as to why this is a fridging. Because in a fridging, you take a character who is not the main character and you further their story by killing them. This is not furthering Batman's story in a lot of ways. This is the end of Stephanie Brown's story. This is her making a decision, which is to disobey Batman one more time and go, I'm going to enact this plan he had to unify the mob. I'm going to push the start button. Why didn't Matches Malone show up? Like, she doesn't know. Yes, Batman didn't tell her that, but why would he tell her that? So she makes a decision, and as a direct result of that decision, she dies. That's her
Not just
story.
Her. Hundreds of people.
And I think that, yes, although Batman's story is furthered by that, like, I think that is an essential part of the Stephanie Brown canon. Like, she made a decision as a direct result of her decision making, her going out into the field, her trying to be a hero. She dies like a hero.
I mean,
well, the thing is that I don't know that she dies like a hero. Like, I don't know that I agree with that.
Oh no, because
graphically tortured.
She keeps fighting though.
I mean, she does keep fighting,
but she's overmatched and she loses, but she doesn't cower. She doesn't cry for help. She doesn't say, "Oh, if only Batman would come to save me." She fights. She fights until she dies.
To get to Orpheus.
And she tries so hard to win, and she doesn't win. Like, she dies, but
it's an incredibly tragic story.
It is.
It is. And
like, if Stephanie Brown's story had ended that way, I would have been incredibly angry.
Well, and I remember reading it at the time and being like, oh my God, that's how they're going to have her go
she
out?
She could have been so much more if anybody had given her a chance, if anybody had supported her even a little bit. Like, it could have gone a different way than that.
Yeah.
And her death is a result of everyone around her not supporting her.
But I think that's a fantastic story. It's like,
I'm
sad
agree.
about that. Well,
and like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I don't agree.
You don't agree because you don't like the outcome, but like, is it a bad story?
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad story. I'm saying I don't like it.
I think it's a good story. I don't know that I necessarily love it either. And at the time when she died, I was like, God damn it, really? Like, that's how you're going to put this character out? Because I love Stephanie Brown. And I loved her even before she became Batgirl.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily agree that it's not a fridging, but I think that this story was more damaging to the character of Leslie Tompkins than it was Stephanie Brown.
Well, and that's kind of what I was driving at.
Yeah.
Is that, while I think that we could have an entire podcast just talking about the scenes where Black Mask is torturing Stephanie Brown, which is fucking awful and unneeded and fucking gratuitous.
It's torture porn.
It's the way that she does not die there. She's saved by Batman. And so her sacrifice is pretty much like, I feel that kind of waters it down a little bit because her heroic moment is taken from her. And then she's brought to the clinic. And then they trot out this fucking bullshit where Leslie Thompson, who
Tompkins.
has been what? Tompkins.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm
think.
tired.
I'm not wrong, right?
I don't know.
It is Tompkins. No, you're right. Okay. It's Tompkins. Like fucking does this bullshit move, which is not, it's not just the scope of that to me, where you're going to take a character that is not just a pacifist, but somebody that has one of only two people mainly that fucking butt heads with Batman about his methodology, and make her do something over some bullshit justification about, well, you would become a monster, so I thought I would. That made me want to, if I hadn't been reading this comic book on my iPad, I would have flung it across the fucking room.
That's late. You're talking about how she fakes her death?
Well, but that's the thing.
That was a retcon.
I know.
Faking her death was a retcon.
But what are you talking about? You're talking about how she lets her die?
I'm talking about the way that they totally leave Leslie at the end of that, where she's like, yeah, I denied her medication so that she would die and this would stop. Because I felt like...
That's not exactly how it happened.
It's like okay.
Because that's...
No, she does end on a very bad note.
Yeah, but she doesn't...
being a murderer.
She doesn't kill Batgirl.
Well,
she does.
It was within my purview as her doctor to basically say, like, triage, like, we're going to use this medicine on people who have a better chance of surviving. But Leslie does say, like, I let her die.
Yeah.
And
on purpose.
If you were a doctor and you let a patient die, then that is called... murder.
Yeah,
that's it. That's just
like it ends with her exiled in Africa and Batman saying like never come back to the United States.
And like to do that to her, I think is almost more offensive to me than anything else that happens in this because of what she represents.
Yeah,
and because what she represents is fucking Batman's humanity.
Yeah.
She represents Bruce Wayne as Alfred does. And for her to fucking like, for them to just fuck her over like that really, really upset me.
Yeah.
And the fact that they did not give Stephanie Brown a memorial case or whatever in the Batcave. Like they justified it later when they retconned it. But at the time, it was just one more kind of indignity heaped upon this character.
Yeah, and Dan DiDio got in a lot of trouble because they were like, why doesn't Batman have a Robin case for Stephanie? And Dan said, oh, because she was never Robin. Which like, pissed off a fuck ton, including me. But, of course she was Robin. She wore the cape. She's Robin.
Yeah, like, those issues exist. You can never take that back.
You can't say that she wasn't Robin.
And Batman even says when she's dying and she says, was I ever Robin? And he's like, always.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and I think that's the writer's, like, direct result of... Dan being like, well, she was never Robin.
I'm pretty sure our listeners will be like, Dan DiDio was wrong? That sounds right. That's pretty right to me.
Never.
Yeah. But, I get it. I get the whole Leslie thing. I guess I read that a little bit differently because I was just like, other people needed the medicine more, and she made the tough call that doctors often make.
She originally says, I was going to make it look like a triage decision.
Right.
But... and then she admits it. She says, no, I let her die to end it. And it's not like I can imagine ways in which that scene could have been done in a way where like, I can't. No, I'm sorry. I lied. I cannot imagine that scene ever fucking working.
Well, yeah, you could. Like, you could have the like, look, I saved these children.
Yeah. Okay. That's it.
Right?
That's
like, I made the hard choice because I wanted to save your friend and I couldn't. I had to save the people that needed the medicine more. And that's a tough choice that doctors make. Yeah. And like that, I would have been way more cool.
And but that would have ended differently. That would have ended. And that's kind of the thing is like, I feel like during this time, there was this big push to push Bruce Wayne out of the picture and concentrate on Batman and not just
and get rid
of
the Batman family.
But and that's why like.
That's definitely editorial coming down.
This is the birth. This is the kind of the same Batman. The Batman that's like, fuck you, you're not Robin anymore. You're fired.
I fucking hate that Batman.
Reaches his peak in Bruce Wayne fugitive when fucking Nightwing clocks him and is like, he's like, he basically tells Nightwing to get fucked, and Nightwing's like, no, fuck you, Bruce, and fucking knocks him out, and is like, you can't do this to us.
Yeah.
You are
Go
not
home,
the
fake
pretty
dad,
much
you're
says, you
drunk.
are not the boss of me, is what he says,
Yeah.
which is great.
It's the same. Those are the same issues in which are the same arc in which Superman shows up.
Yeah.
To be
Yes,
like, hey,
exactly.
do you need any help, Bruce? And he's like, I'm not Bruce anymore. I'm Batman.
And
And
he's
he's
like-
like, okay, well, let me know if you need anything, Bruce.
And no, he's like, well, if you need me, you know where to find me. And as he's already left the panel, and his speech bubble is kind of coming in from off panel, and it just goes, Bruce. And like, that's what's so great
Yeah.
about that is it's the rebuilding of the
Yeah,
Bat family.
and I think that sometimes to build a house, you have to tear down the old house. And
Which-
like reading all of these Robin issues that led up to it, like that house wasn't all that great
Yeah.
at that time anyway. So like getting rid of a lot of that extra junk to make room for new stories, I'm fine with. I think that they made some really poor decisions editorially to get rid of Leslie, to get rid of Stephanie Brown in a way that later our authors would like rectify. They'd make it a little bit more okay, where like Leslie's like, oh, I did it all so that you could be alive and like lead a normal life and like not feel like you have to be a crime fighter. And I love the retcon because it undoes some shitty writing, in my opinion. You know?
Oh, God, yes.
Like, that's the kind of retcon. Like, I still don't like that retcon as a retcon, but I'm more able to excuse retcons that fix bad editorial decisions than ones that just erase things arbitrarily. Like, one more day.
I mean, it leads into, at first, I mean, I can imagine I was not reading Batman comic books at this point. I wouldn't come back to them for a while, but like, I can imagine being a little bit annoyed had I been. Because I'm like, oh, another fucking retcon. But I'm going to tell you something.
Well, I was, because when they announced they were bringing Stephanie Brown back, I was like, holy shit, really, guys?
Yeah.
Like, I'm fucking pissed about this, because I loved Stephanie, and I was like, first of all, you gave her the fucking shittiest ending you could have possibly given a character, and now you're going to bring her back just for dollars and reader support, and I was pissed off. And then I read the first issue of Batgirl, and I wasn't angry anymore.
She was back for a while before that.
Yeah,
she's kind of showing up in the background of Robin, but she's not
But
really
I didn't
doing
read
anything.
those. I mean, originally at the time, like the first time I
Batgirl,
read the Return of Stephanie Brown was in Batgirl. I had not read those Red Robin issues. I didn't
Where
read
she's
those
like,
until
Batman
later.
told me I should make you strong, and blah,
And
blah, blah.
I
And
swear
this is
to
all
God-
very confusing and makes no sense.
And I don't like those issues.
Brian Q. Miller was the writer that Stephanie Brown was always waiting for.
Oh,
I agree.
God,
Because
yes.
this is one of the very few series that I would consider like immaculate. Like,
Oh, yeah.
everything about it is exactly.
There is
I love
the
that series. It was
crossover near the
phenomenal.
beginning of the series, Batgirl and Robin, where Robin, like Red Robin comes
Damien.
back with Ra's al Ghul, and like that whole thing, and the way she catches him at the end, or like the way that fucking
that.
Dick catches Tim at the end when he gets kicked out of the
Yeah.
just like that whole fucking thing. I'm like, this is superhero comics.
Yeah.
Everybody in that book feels so. When Tim's standing there, is like, I figured out everything you're gonna fucking do, and like the Superboy's calling on the phone. He's like,
Yeah,
Alfred's
I got him.
okay, and like everybody.
Stephanie
there's like,
calls in and she's like, I got your girlfriend. You
yeah,
know,
like this is the fucking. These are the moments we
Yep.
read superhero comics for. This is why they're there,
Yeah.
and so that you can have that moment where you're like, "Fuck, what's gonna happen?" Oh, that's what's
and
gonna
then it all
happen.
turns out awesome.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like it's not. Oh well, it was okay. It's like no, that was fucking awesome, and it represented something. When fucking Dick rescues Tim, and he like they're in the Batcave, and he's like, "How did you know I would catch you?" And Tim goes, "You're my brother."
Yeah.
Like I almost fucking lost my shit at that moment because it's such a great moment, and it's such a 180 from all this shit we have been seeing thus far, where everybody's just yelling at each other and sniping at each other and just at each other's
And that
throats.
was the thing about those early Red Robin issues is like they're so whiny and
Yeah,
Tim is like
God
awful
damn.
in those, and I stopped reading it and I wish I hadn't because it got better so much faster. Like by the time this issue, like what was it, 10 or 9 or whatever,
Something.
when
Yeah.
that happens, it was like, oh my god, the series is like back on
It's
its feet
so
and like
good. It's so
Tim
much
is
better now.
awesome. Maybe for really the first time ever. Like
Yeah.
I always liked him as a kid, but like this is Tim coming into his own as sort of a mature human being for the first time.
It's Tim on the level. I think we see Tim
Well, he flirts with becoming Batman.
Yeah, and like there's Tim that needs Batman, there's Tim that's getting away from Batman, and then there's the Tim that realizes that he has become a hero in his own right and that he can stand alone. And that self-actualization, which is very similar to what happens with not just Stephanie Brown but Oracle.
Well, I think it's not just that he can stand alone, but that he doesn't have to.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think there's like this really cool thing where it's like, you can't realize one of those things without the other. Like,
I mean, that's ultimately the problem with Batman. Is like, I am the Knight.
Yeah,
I don't need anybody. I'm Batman. Like, all of his proteges are better than him in that regard.
Yeah,
that no one of them is better than him in all the things that he's good at. But as individuals, they exceed him in different areas, and together, because they do operate together, they are far stronger than he has ever been as a single person.
The greatest thing that Batman ever did was build the Bat Family, because because as a unit they are unstoppable,
and they are the best guardians of Gotham, because when he's gone, Gotham's fine. Yeah. Like, it doesn't just crumble immediately because Bruce is gone. Like,
and one of the reasons why I love Young Justice, the cartoon, so much is because in that show, Batman's a good dad.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the asshole Batman. Like, he knows how to relate with Dick and Tim on their individual levels and, like, does good stuff to try and support them. And you're like, yeah, this is the kind of Batman who could build a really awesome family of superheroes around himself.
Well, and coaches Clark on, like, being a dad.
Oh, yeah, right?
It's like that first
best
episode
fucking scene
where he's just like, you need to talk to Connor. It's like, I remember I watched it with Toby, and I turned to him and I was like, is Batman giving Superman parenting advice? Because that's the best thing I've ever seen.
Well, it's a marked turn from the Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness Superman Batman series, where Supergirl shows up and Superman is like, welcome to my family, and Batman's like, I don't know if I trust her. Like, it's such a departure from that, but I'm cool with it because at that time, you know, Batman was a really different character.
Yep.
And it highlighted different parts about their character.
Yeah.
But I love the Batman creating the Bat Family story. And although it was told in a time in which comics, like, weren't that awesome, like the 90s, it was part of the reason why I was really excited for a reboot with the New 52, because I was like, well, they'll start over and there won't be any Robins, and we'll get to see Batman build the Bat Family all over again, but told in a modern way. And,
but
like,
then Dan DiDio shat on everything.
It didn't happen.
I mean,
it wasn't just Dan DiDio.
It was everybody.
Yes.
It was a group effort.
It sucked. And the reason for that, and a lot of, in my opinion, is not only did they take away legacy characters, but if they were going to take them away, they should have taken all of them away then rebuilt them slowly.
It was very much a case of wanting to have your cake and eat it too.
And it didn't work.
Absolutely. And you didn't want to alienate. You wanted to reach out to new readers without alienating the readers you already have. And like, I think we've talked about this, right?
Yeah.
If the readers like what you're putting out, they're going to come to you.
Yeah. And I think that this reading list highlights, in my mind, like, what's so important about legacy and why it matters so much. Because by the time we wade through all of the, like, annoying bullshit and the not so good stuff, we get to the point in which a great writer with a great artist gets together with a great character and finally goes, here's what we're gonna do, and tells the unbelievable story that is Batgirl.
And it's fucking great.
It's so good.
It's a breath
and the
of fresh
thing that I
air.
love the most about it is the relationships.
Yes.
Her relationship with Oracle. Oracle's relationship with Proxy.
Yes.
Batgirl's relationship with Damian.
Batgirl and Proxy. Batgirl and Supergirl.
BFF.
Oh, God,
I fucking love the issues with Batgirl and Supergirl. Like, I wanted that to be a series. But that's part of the reason why I like
great,
World's
too.
Finest.
Batgirl and Supergirl have the best bromance in DC Comics.
Absolutely.
I fucking love.
I mean, it's there's a close competition now with Kara Zor-El and Helena Wayne in World's Finest. Like, it picked up a lot of the stuff I loved about this series, but it's not the same. It's different. And I like this more. Like, I really do love those issues of Supergirl and Batgirl. That's part of the reason I put those World's Finest issues in there, is because that's the first meeting between the two of them.
Every college movie ever.
I think it's a adorable when they meet and then they have to fight like giant robots together.
Oh yeah, it's great. The issue where they're fighting the Draculas together.
Oh my god!
And Supergirl rips her clothes off, and she's got her Supergirl outfit underneath, and she's like, "Aren't you gonna?" And she's like, "I'm not wearing my costume." And she's like, "Well, unless you want to see my bra." And Supergirl is like, "Does it have a bat on it?" And so she's like, "I assure you, it does not." This is one of my favorite fucking panels.
I love Stephanie and Damian, man. I really love that.
That issue was my favorite.
Well, she is the only one who treats him like a kid.
No, that's true. That's true. And the one where they're saving Dick from Roulette's little trap. And that whole series of events where like Dick's like, "Oh, this is going to suck for you." And then like Stephanie hits him. And then Damian hits him with the motorcycle. And then Damian's fighting. And he's like, "I've got you just where I want you." And the guy, it's Dr. Phosphorus or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "That's not what it looks like from here." And Damian's like, "This is going to hurt." And he's like, "What?" And he just looks over and just that whole, like the way they play off each other.
The whole Dick Bat, Damian, Stephanie as Batgirl, like that whole little time period for a couple of years.
It was beautiful.
It was a thing of beauty.
It really was.
Because it worked so incredibly well. And you got to see that legacy moment where you're like, it's going to be okay. Like, Bruce is dead, but it's going to be okay because
that's 3 out of the 5 Robins.
The people who are willing to carry on his mission after he's gone, and they're up to the task.
Oh, yeah. He left good people behind. And
that's what legacy really is.
There's no series in the world that highlights why legacy is important more than that Batgirl series to me. I love that not only is Oracle, she's come into her own as a character that she was always more interesting as Oracle than she ever could have been as Batgirl. And it's not that there aren't cute, good Batgirl stories with Barbara Gordon. Like, they're there, but as Oracle, she's so much more important. She's so much more far-reaching. She's no longer Ms. Male character. She is her own character, and Oracle. And
Barbara Gordon
is the Oracle Network, and the Birds of Prey depend on her, and the Justice League depends on her, and Batman couldn't do what he does without her.
And only Barbara Gordon can be Oracle.
And I love the idea that, like, maybe not, though. Like, maybe Proxy can do this. Like, maybe she's setting up a legacy for her own character.
And that's absolutely cool. What I mean by that is that you have Cassandra Cain and you have Stephanie Brown who can be Batgirl.
Right.
Neither of them can be Oracle.
Yeah.
Only if you're going to take Barbara Gordon away from Oracle, like, don't make her be Batgirl again, because there are other people who can be Batgirl.
Yeah.
Like,
and
let her be her own thing.
I don't want to say that this Batgirl series is like the ultimate Batgirl series, because I do really love some of those Cassandra Cain stories.
Oh yeah, she's great too.
This highlights everything I love about superheroes in a way that book didn't really do for me, which is, this is all about the legacy. This is about legacy characters setting up new legacy characters. And I love that.
I love the montage at the end when she's under the Black Mercy.
Oh, yeah.
And you're seeing basically all of the stuff that Brian Q. Miller was going to do with the series that he never got a chance to do.
Last time I read that was when I was compiling the list. It was 4th of July when I compiled the list the last time I read this Batgirl stuff. And I was sitting in my friend's house that I was house sitting for on their bed, and I was just reading that issue and weeping. I was just like, it's the saddest thing that ever has happened.
I also cried.
I can't handle how beautiful that ending was for Stephanie Brown, and how much I'm pissed that it still happened. That, like, I want that. I want all of that. I want everything that he showed in there. I want that to be a series forever. And it just that series went out in such an interesting way. Like the Knight and Squire story was, or the Stephanie and Squire story was amazing. And then her at as Batman's agent in Batman Inc. at the School for Leviathan, and just like, there was so much potential for that.
Well, you were finally seeing the payoff of 15 plus years of Stephanie Brown stories where she was really coming into her own. Like, she was someone who Batman could say, like, I'm going to insert you into this place, and I need you to be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
And she deals with it.
And he trusts her to deal with it. And it's like an amazing relation. And even though I'm pissed that Wayne is back, like, it's a good way to use that character. I like the Road Home issue with Stephanie Brown and Bruce Wayne, too. It was like Bruce Wayne, the Return Home or the Road Home, and it's that like one-shot Batgirl story. I put it in the list.
Okay, I'm not sure if I read that one or not.
It's got the white cover with Batgirl on it, and it's like she keeps encountering these like invisible guys that have lasers, and they're like shooting at her, and she's like, I don't know who that is, and it turns out it's Bruce Wayne, and he's like testing her to make sure that she actually can be Batgirl. This is the first time they meet as Batman and Batgirl.
Okay, I'm not sure that I read that issue.
It's a great issue.
I got as much of the list together as I could, and there were still a couple of things that I was missing.
Yeah, there's so many good issues with Stephanie Brown in them that are outside of the just like Robin, Batgirl stuff.
I even loved Stephanie Brown as Batgirl on the level of like her costume. I think that's great design with the staff and the colors.
Combining
it really
the original
works
Batgirl
well.
colors with the spoiler colors and like
and that moment where Oracle was like, "You've earned this."
Yeah, like I feel like I'm gushing a little bit, but it really is that good.
Yeah, I love that series.
Like I think more than anything, this was the series that made me care about DC.
Yeah,
like in that post Infinite Crisis period after 52, like I was reading this and I was reading Supergirl and I was reading Booster Gold, and like there were a number of other things that I was looking at, but Batgirl was the one that I cared about.
Oh, me too.
That was when that was coming out, that was the first comic I read every week because I was like, this is the most important one. This is the one that I got to read first because I cannot wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read this one.
And I just think about how different a universe we would have now if this continued and we had like a Supergirl, Batgirl team up book every month, and how better represented females would be at DC Comics than they are now.
I can't remember who it was, but one of the writers threw out a promo image of a new Young Justice team that they were going to put together with Batgirl, Supergirl, Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle, one of Wally West's children, the girl, I can't remember what her name is, Iris, I think. And like a few other, or Static Shock was going to be on there.
Got to put Ryan Choi, the all-new Adam, on there.
Yeah, there were a couple other people, and I was like, I want to read that comic.
Yeah.
I still want to read that comic today. That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Why, DC? Why couldn't you give me that thing?
Yeah, well, because they had to give you everything that they're giving you.
They had to give me Superman with
Justice
a high collar because nobody wants to read a Superman with red panties on, except for, oh my God, the last 70 fucking years of that.
Yeah, and then also they had to give you Justice League Dark and Justice League United and...
and Forever Evil. I had to see Lex Luthor on the Justice League. That had to be a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Future's End. You're loving that. You're
Forever Evil.
You love Batman Eternal. Like all these amazing books that are coming out right now instead of this.
Okay, we can't... If we keep naming books, I'm going to shoot myself. I just can't do it.
Those books all suck, in case you're wondering.
They do. I think this is really... I think the beautiful thing to me is that I have a pretty good collection of I'd say I have a pretty large collection of comic books. And every one that I own, I love in its own way. But I will say that like my favorite ones, like All-Star Superman and like Batman Murderer, or Bruce Wayne Murderer and Bruce Wayne Fugitive, like
JLI.
They all have these great moments. There's this moment in it's not I Can't Believe It's Not the Justice League. It's the one like Whatever Happened to the Justice League or something. It's the one like that goes before it, where they all go to hell. And, like, Booster Gold is calling Max Lord on a cell phone, and Max Lord is like, are you calling me from hell? This is insane. Like, what plan do you have? And it's all very lighthearted, but at one point, Guy Gardner sees, like, ice down there, and he just freaks out. And it's, like, this really incredibly touching moment because, not just because of the levity, but because you know what the history is there, you know? And it's it's...
And the tonal shift too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You have these light moments to make the dark moments more dark.
Yeah.
Where if all you see is dark all the time, like it can't get any blacker than black.
Absolutely.
Like it's already that darkest it can possibly get.
Yeah. But
and you need the moments of light.
Well, absolutely.
You need contrast.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do. And I think that with superhero comics normally fall into three general slots, right? You have the general, the largest one, right, which is superheroes. Superheroes is business as usual.
Yeah.
You have the let's never fucking do that again. But every once in a while, you get to read something that's like, this is how it should be. This is what feels right. This is what speaks to the 12-year-old inside me that wants to fucking dress up and go swinging around rooftops and do crazy shit and dodge bullets and all that shit. And that's what Batgirl is. Like, and that's what that is, man. That's
we should not over
beautiful about that idea of what being heroic is.
We should not overlook the fact that this is a great comic for female readers to have a character that they can identify with,
about
and that feels representative of them.
Yep.
Yeah, the representation of females in the New 52 is atrocious at best, and this is everything about what it should be like. This is about the level that Marvel's doing with great series like Ms. Marvel and Captain Marvel and She-Hulk and
Black
Widow, which is getting canceled. But
damn it,
you have strong female characters in good roles that are not like, look at how sexy this character is, because that's a role that Catwoman can fill in the New 52, but like it's kind of creepy when you do it to Batgirl because she's so young, and like I wish she was in the New 52, because if they tried to do this to her, the backlash would be, if they tried to make her into like a sexual object, the backlash would be
they even joke about that when she swings by and it's like, hey you, and Commissioner Gordon turns and says, hey you?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you've got Batman, and he's like, I'm pretty sure Batman's legal.
Yeah. I love that. I love that idea that like she wears a costume that is full coverage and like looks awesome. Like
looks like something you could actually legitimately
and she's never in poses that are like, wow, why is her just ass everywhere in this panel?
Yes!
They draw her like, I don't know, maybe like they respect her as a person. Like,
I did want to throw this out there earlier. War Games Act 1 Part 4, the last page, it's all these villains fucking like lined up.
Yeah.
And there's one dude in like this orange and white costume with a cape and a hood, and he's got a giant fat staff, and he's totally doing the ass and tits pose. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember that guy.
I was incredibly happy when I saw that.
Who is it supposed to be? Do you know?
I don't know. I think they named him at one point, but I mean, you can see it if I'm holding it up. He's totally doing the tits and ass pose.
Nice.
Which is
that's great.
Always nice to see.
But in any case, I'm sorry, that's just a little aside.
No, I think that Brian Q. Miller nailed every part of this book. I don't know that this could be better. And I almost always say like there's no such thing as a perfect comic, and that there's no such thing as a perfect story, because every story could have improvements, but there's only one thing that I would change about this whole series, and that's I wish you didn't have to read 100 issues of not so great Batman to like really make the punch happen on this.
Well, and
that's just kind of the issue with comics in general.
It is a wonderful breath of fresh air, and I think the other thing is, it ended. Like it ended in a real way, in a great way, but. I think there's something always bittersweet about that. There's those moments you have in nerddom, maybe not just in nerddom. I'm sure everybody can relate to it. Like, the season finale or the series finale of Seinfeld, right? And how, like, let down everybody. Or like, for me, it was Quantum Leap. Fuck that show. Fuck the series fucking premiere or finale of that show.
Show was great up until the last episode.
Yeah, and like. I mean,
that's for a different reason. Like, the finale of this is phenomenal.
No, absolutely.
What sucks is that she's just not around anymore.
What I was going to say is like...
she's again now.
She showed up in like a couple of issues of Batman Eternal.
Yeah.
And
but I don't care.
In Batgirl Future's End, there's a future version of her who is Batgirl and teamed up with Cassandra Cain, who is also Batgirl.
Yay.
But she spells it with a Y.
The issue itself was like,
all those Future's End issues have been shitty.
Well, I mean, it's the New 52.
People ripping arms off.
Hey, you know what? Dan Jurgens wrote the Booster Gold one this week. I don't know, this is weird because it'll date this episode, but the Future's End Booster Gold one came out this week, and guess who's in that issue? Pre-New 52 Booster Gold. Yep. Also pre-New 52 Blue Beetle. Yep. And Gotham by Gaslight Batman for some reason.
Well, there was just something in Superman Doomed number 2 where there was like flashes of the pre-New 52, not just Prime universe, but like a bunch of other ones.
Yeah, and
Earth 2 and Earth 5 and
actually
a bunch of
Robin
other
Rises had like the story of Damian, and it was not the New 52 story of Damian. It was the Crisis era story of Damian.
DC is up to something,
Yeah.
and I want to feel hopeful about it. But on the other hand, Dan DiDio and Bob Harris and all of those people are still in charge at DC.
I said that this week on Top of the Stack, which was basically like, oh, they could bring the old universe back, and I don't think I would be excited except if they got like rid of DiDio and Dan Jurgens and
Can we
Tom
have them-
DeFalco.
Can we have them
Tom
paraded-
DeFalco and
Bob Harris.
Bob Harris. Yeah.
Can we have them paraded through the streets and throw rotten vegetables?
No,
at
I want
like
them.
in
I
vaudeville?
want Warner Brothers to promote them, pay them an inordinate amount of money to sit in an office and smoke cigars and be like,
And never do anything.
We were awesome. Yeah, we were, and then just stay there
Oh
for
my
the
God.
next 30 years until they die.
That's
They
what
could do
Marvel is
that.
paying Joe Quesada to do.
Yeah.
And it's working out great.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
in Japan, it's called a window seat. It's what happens when you fuck up and they don't want to fire you because it's disrespectful. So they just promote you into a job where you do nothing.
It's
like
you can't
don't
do any harm from here.
That's what happened. Unfortunately, that's what happened to the guy that invented the Virtual Boy for a long time.
Yeah,
it
that's
was
too bad.
which is sad because he's a great guy. But you know, that's
Until they
that.
invented
It's
the
in
Virtual
part
Boy.
of Japanese culture, the window seat people, and I wish they would do it at Warner Brothers with the deal and all those guys.
Or they could just fire them.
I mean, that would
Out
be
of a
fine, but
cannon.
then they would end up doing something else horrible. Like in this case, you've like contained them.
Founding
It's like
their
the
own comics company.
It's like the trap from Ghostbusters, where you just like throw it out and trap them, and then you like put them in the basement where they can't do any harm anymore.
Wait a minute. What's a synonym for Image? Because that's the comic book company that they would found after they got
Picture.
kicked out. Picture Comics. That's it. It's
I don't
Tom
know.
It would be
DeFalco, Bob
picture
Harris,
perfect
and,
comics
Dan
knowing
DiDio.
them.
Yeah.
Picture Comics. Check out this idea. These weird, freaky people with powers given to them by a freak of their birth.
Yeah.
fight
Can we
crime.
throw Jeff Johns and Scott Lobdell onto that
No,
list
because
too?
John's writing Superman right now, and it's good. Fuck all of
Can we?
you. He's fixing Superman.
Scott
I'm letting him
Lobdell
do it.
and Fabian Nicieza and
Those guys are not doing anything
pretty much,
anyway.
If you took, it's like if you wrote X-Men in the 90s, then you should never be allowed near a comic book ever again.
You got to leave Jeff Johns out of that because he's writing Crisis Era Superman in the New 52 and just not really telling anyone about it. Because like Superman, the minute John Romita Jr. and Jeff Johns came on, it was just like, wait, what? This is pre New 52 Superman. Like he's not an asshole and he's helpful and nice.
I think my perfect property for Jeff Johns to write is Homestar Runner, because he can't chop anyone's arms off.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with him writing Superman. I'll give him that.
I really wanted you to say, you know what? There's nothing wrong with him chopping arms off, okay?
Oh yeah, I have the problem with that. Yeah, I do. Chopping arms off is never a good
it's
solution.
like limbs in general.
Kids don't chop people's arms off. It's
like,
rude.
I feel like DC in general is like, this guy's really serious, and we're going to convey that to you because somebody's losing a limb. I'm like, why is that? That's awful. He just froze that
just
guy's
happened.
leg and punched it off.
I was trying to remember where that just happened recently, where someone lost a limb.
That's every issue of everything that
There's
DC
a count-
It was
does.
Guardians. It was
Yeah.
Guardians last week.
Yeah. They can't go a week.
Well, it was Guardians of the Galaxy. That's where
Somebody's got a counter on the internet.
Arms lost.
Yeah, like how long has it been since somebody lost an arm in DC Comics?
Well, this was Marvel.
And it gets up to like 8
yeah,
days.
but like, I mean, DC.
When was
I
the
don't-
last time someone lost an arm at DC?
All the fucking
recently.
time.
No, really. When did it
Go
happen?
look at the counter.
That's not a counter.
There is a
really is a
counter.
counter.
It's not a counter.
I swear
I
to
will
God,
link
there's
to
a
the
counter.
counter.
All right. Put it in the. I have the.
They
the
went
description.
6 days. Well, they actually went 56 days, but there was a while there.
Well,
Especially like
has
last
DC
year.
done something stupid? That's a different counter.
No. I was watching this on Reddit. It was
Okay.
56 days, and it was in Future's End, and then 6 days later, there was another one.
Okay.
But there was a while there where it was just limbs were just flying off everywhere. I'm all about I'm all about hacking limbs off, but I mean, when it happens
you?
all the time, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I work for a groundskeeping guy. Like I do groundskeeping. I hack limbs off all the time.
Yeah, but those are trees.
Well, sometimes,
Okay.
and sometimes
He's
there
in
are
the
people that
perfect
don't
job
return
to
my
hide
fucking
it.
Sunglasses
Yeah.
to me.
If he
Yeah.
does do it to a human.
So,
All right.
what else do we have to say about Stephanie Brown?
So I wanted to talk about a couple of my favorite moments in Batgirl.
Do it.
Go
No,
for it.
that's not what this is for.
Shut up.
It is, though, isn't it?
This is the exact thing this is for, Joe.
So, two of my favorite moments, aside from the ones we've already talked about, the ending of the issue with Damien, where she wants him to have fun.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I want to stab you. And she's like, would that be fun for you?
Yeah.
And that's just the end of the issue. I love that.
That's when they're on the bouncy castle, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then,
Good times.
oh my God, the story she drew for Proxy to learn about the Bat family.
Oh, my God. That's so good. So good.
As much
Why are you putting
praises-
quotes on everything? Because I'm paraphrasing.
as much praise as we've been heaping onto Brian Q. Miller, I also want to throw a shout out to Dustin Nguyen,
Oh, yeah.
who did the second half of Batgirl.
Oh, my
And the
God.
covers for a lot of...
Phil Noto did a lot of the covers.
I have some...
Yeah.
I think I own some Dustin Nguyen covers from
Okay.
somewhere in there, so...
He may have done a few of the covers.
There were
but,
variant covers too.
Okay,
I thought his
just
art-
got variants.
on the second half of that series was great.
I have the one with the gray ghost, and it looks like stained glass. I'm pretty sure that's Dustin Nguyen.
That is.
Anyway.
That's in the later
Might
half.
be,
That's
yeah.
I think it is in the
20-something.
late half. Yeah, I really, really love the art in this series too. It's so bright and like the line is so crisp, and
Yep.
I think they went out of their way to find amazing artists for
And
this
all the
series
stuff
because
that they
were
do in
worried
the
about it.
daytime looks phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
Because you almost never think about Gotham in the daytime.
yeah. I love her as a college student. I love her still living at home with her mom and like having to hide it from her.
And how
just-
weird was it that her mom kept changing character designs?
Yeah.
That bugged me.
Yeah, she kept going through some body shape issues for a while.
It happens to women of a certain age.
Yeah, I like her design though. It went back to like more of the original design.
Yeah,
in the
it was the
Batgirl.
middle one where she was
Yeah.
really kind of heavy set that I
Yeah.
didn't much care for because she just, I don't know.
It
she
didn't
did
look like her at all.
She didn't look like Stephanie Brown's mom.
Yeah.
Like there was no resemblance between them.
Yeah, she had like dark hair and
Yeah. It was
I
weird.
don't know.
Can I say that I love the whole Fey Ray thing? The whole like that's our in trouble code word.
Oh, yeah.
I really love that. For those of you that don't know, Fey Ray was the original actress in King Kong that he takes
Yeah.
up to the top of the building, and she was a blonde bombshell. And I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty clever. I
It was
really liked that.
apropos.
Yeah. God, there's just too much to like about this series.
You're right. Dustin
thing-
Nguyen did do the stained glass cover.
Sweet.
No, he totally did. Yes.
Yeah, because I was pretty sure I was
But
going
I'm
to try
pretty
to get
sure
him to
Phil
sign
Noto
that.
did work on this too.
The one thing, if I had any complaints about anything in this series, besides that you have to read all the other Batman stuff, is I don't like the design of her Batmobile / Bat.
Oh, the
cycle.
Ricochet.
I don't like it.
And
It looks like
was-
a weird bullet.
I was okay.
here's another name that you might recognize. Janelle Aslan was the editor on this book.
Nice.
Yeah, she was the editor. We were just looking this up. She's the editor. Is she the current editor of Comics Alliance?
I know she had an article up on Comics Alliance, the one that caused so much
Oh
furor.
yeah, she was the one that wrote the article about
the Teen Titans cover.
the fucking egregiously bad Wonder Girl fucking goddamn like everything that we are talking about in Batgirl. This cover was not.
Yeah.
If you could distill everything that was great about this Batgirl run we're talking about right now, and then find its exact polar opposite, it would be that cover.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, maybe the Spider Woman cover.
okay, that too.
That one's maybe worse.
Well, I think
It depends on what you mean by worse. I
yeah,
guess.
because Cassie is what she's supposed to be 16 in that.
yeah, something
And
like
so,
that.
like, I
maybe
mean,
17 at best.
yeah, but still, it's just
15 at worst.
Yeah. Ugh.
Well, I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but I think the Milo Manera thing is slightly different because he is explicitly an artist of like erotic comics.
Well,
like
and
that's
Yeah.
what he does.
And the only
And-
reason they made that variant cover was for those collectors.
Yeah, and it is a variant.
And
Like if that makes it better.
the Teen Titans cover, like
That was the main cover.
that's just
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Like it was just badly conceived.
that's just bad. That's just trash
Like you don't have
garbage.
even have the excuse of this is explicitly supposed to be pornographic.
No,
Right.
it was just. I mean, it's a good cover with the exception of the fact that, I mean, the art is good, but the choice he made
It's
about
competently
Wonder Girl-
drawn, yeah.
But the choice he made about Wonder Girl, the choices he made, the pose he decided to put her in, the shape that he drew her in, like, I think that's where the issue lies.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
No, I mean, nobody's arguing that the guy doesn't know how to draw.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know the name of the person who wrote who drew the cover.
It was Hootie from Hootie and the Blowfish.
It was not. There's no guy named Hootie in Hootie and the Blowfish. It's a nonsense name.
It is.
No, this is no.
It was not Darius.
Yeah, Darius
What's
Rucker.
his name? Yeah,
Darius
that one.
Rucker is the name of the guy
I'm
who was
sorry,
the
but you
singer
guys
in
are
Hootie and
suffering
the
under a
Blow.
misapprehension. Darius Rucker is Hootie. Darius Rucker is Hootie.
No.
Yes.
There's no guy named Hootie.
There's an episode of
Have you
Key
not
and Peele
seen
you
the
really
Key and
need to
Peele
watch,
sketch
Joe.
about this?
Yeah, I have.
Good Lord in heaven, save me from this conversation.
I have a friend that, like, at work, because he does bluegrass music now. He does, like, country bluegrass music now.
stuff.
And, like, one of my friends at work is always listening to him, and one of his songs, he's just saying, all right. And so I'm always like, is Hootie all right? I'm not sure. I'm worried about Hootie. And I do it specifically because of Key and Peele, because they're everything that is awesome in
You
the
do
world.
it to infuriate me, is what
Well,
you
that
do it.
too, but, I mean, come on.
You
It's
like
one
Darius?
of the myriad ways.
Yeah.
You like Darius?
I don't know. You do it just because you know it makes me furious. Yeah, what did you guys think about the design of the Ricochet?
I thought you were
Going back to what I was fucking
what do
talking
you guys
about
think
earlier.
about Darius
I
Rucker?
don't give
and
a
his-
shit about Darius Rucker. We're talking about goddamn Batgirl here. I want to talk about the shitty design on the Ricochet.
I thought the Ricochet was fine. It did not upset
I
me.
didn't mind
did
it.
not
But I don't
mind.
care about cars.
I did like the compact better.
Yeah. Me too.
The compact was good.
I
I
liked
liked
that.
her whole Batgirl cave after it gets the Batman ink like makeover.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
I
Where she was like
actually
making
stared
all
at-
the batarangs.
Yeah.
Sorry for I keep interrupting you, Kate.
I actually stared
I
at
was-
two images for like 5 minutes.
Wait, what?
The compact pre-change and then the compact post-change. And like, it's very clear that the first one is a Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
But then when it changes, it actually loses every single distinctive feature of the Mini Cooper,
Yeah.
while still kind of looking like the same car.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty incredible.
some artists are just awesome at drawing cars, and some of them aren't. So,
This is very true.
yeah. Cars and animals. Some things that some comic book artists never have to draw. So when it calls for it, they're like, how the fuck do I draw that?
When I was a kid, we had the annotated Far Side, and Gary Larson is talking about a comic that he drew with Rocky and Bullwinkle in it, and he showed his rough sketch next to the finished one, and his annotation just says, "If there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that once you've drawn a cartoon squirrel, you can never draw it again."
Animals are
It's hard to draw a horse. A lot of the
Yeah.
times it looks like a dog.
Well, and also comic book artists aren't normally called on to draw horses.
Unless you were working on the Super Horse title
Conan
in
or-
the 60s.
if you
What
were
was
like-
the fucking horse's
Or
name?
Mr. Ed.
the horse was named Supergirl's horse, is what you're talking about, right?
it's,
fuck, the cat was streaky.
wasn't-
Was it Swift?
Maybe it was Swift. It wasn't Beppo, the super monkey,
It was not that.
which was a real thing.
And
Streaky-
Streaky the cat.
Streaky
which
the cat.
I love that Streaky the cat made an appearance in the Crisis Era Supergirl book. She gets a cat and she names it Streaky.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's sort of shitting everywhere.
That Supergirl book, it was a little bit more intermittent than Batgirl
Yeah.
was, but it had a lot of good stuff in it.
Christos Gage wrote that for a long time. It was really good. Rucka wrote it at the beginning too. I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember.
Yep, it was good.
So do we want to move on to
I suppose
recommendations?
if no one wants to talk about the Ricochet, well,
No,
I like the
do not
Ricochet.
want to
Get
talk
over
about
it.
cars.
I like the Ricochet, and I
no.
just want Hootie to be okay.
He's not okay.
I just want him to be
nor
all
is he a
right.
person. Let's move on to recommendations.
I feel like we have moved on from the point where we can have a serious conversation.
As per normal on the long run, instead of recommending what we're reading next week and voting on it because we already have an idea of what we're reading for next time, we will instead recommend books that we think you should check out if you dug Batgirl.
May I go first?
Yeah, absolutely, kid.
Okay, so
No, you can't, Kate. I'm sorry. I'm going to go first.
Overruled. Cade, go.
Okay, so when I was reading this, beginning with right before War Drums, Nightwing kept making an appearance. Dick Grayson Nightwing, and it reminded me of how much I really used to like Nightwing, and have started to again after reading this. And
Nightwing is the pimp of the DCU.
Yeah.
Definitely when he was wearing that 70s outfit.
Just like Dick Grayson in general was just like all the ladies love Dick Grayson all the time.
Yep.
So there was a time there that Dick Grayson was very well written before he became Batman, and I mean he was well written when he was Batman. I believe, and it reminded me of some other books with Nightwing that I really enjoyed that kind of had that same feel. And the one that I liked the most, this was one of the main 3 books I was getting at the time it was coming out, was The Outsiders.
Ooh.
Spawned out of Teen Titans Graduation Day. Or Titans Graduation Day. I don't remember.
It's Titans Graduation Day.
Yeah. Well, there was a series in the 70s called Batman and the Outsiders.
Yeah.
This was like the reintroduction of that series in the modern era.
So basically the death of Donna Troy...
for the second time.
Yeah, sparked the ending of the Titans. Roy Harper and Dick Grayson create The Outsiders, which then spawns the new Teen Titans run by Jeff Johns that I really enjoyed. That was one of the other 3 books I was picking up readily. The other being Superman Batman, which I've brought many times.
Wait, so it was the end of Titans or the new Teen Titans?
It was the end of the Titans. So Nightwing and all those guys were on the Titans.
But that was after Jeff Johns' run.
No. This predates it because
this is when there was Young Justice was happening.
Yeah,
and then Jeff Johns came on and turned Young Justice into Teen Titans again.
Okay.
And then
because Titans got relaunched again later. So this was the first death of Donna Troy. Maybe?
I don't remember. Yes. It was early 2000s. 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
Because I thought there was a death of Donna Troy back in the late 80s.
I think there was too.
There was. This is her second death. Because then, basically at this point, they're like, we can't do the Titans again, blah, blah, blah. We'll just do the Outsiders. And then, Teen Titans picks up with everybody going, oh, we can't do this again, blah, blah, blah. And then they do it anyways. And then all, the big guys come down and they're like, we're not going to let you do this.
Oh, and then they fight the Outsiders.
And then they fight
the Justice League?
They fight the Justice League.
Okay. Yeah. There's actually an issue of The Outsiders that the new Teen Titans, Jeff Johns' Teen Titans run spawns out of.
Okay.
So, but yeah, this was one of my favorite books at the time. Great stuff with Nightwing, Red Arrow, Arsenal. But it's Judd Winnick, so it wasn't horrible Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I really like it. So I think that if you really like the Nightwing aspect of the Stephanie Brown stuff we read, if you want to learn more about him, see more about what makes him tick, this is him leading a team.
Nice.
Right before he became Batman.
Sweet.
Joe?
I went back and forth on what to recommend here a little bit because I didn't know. And what I decided on is that if you liked Batgirl and but also a lot of the themes that this whole bit gets into, which is things like mentorship and kind of other people being Batman that aren't Bruce Wayne. If you liked all that shit, then you should I'm not necessarily going to give you something to read, although you can read this as well.
Yeah, it was a comic.
But you should watch Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
And you should also read Batman Beyond.
Yep. There's some legacy.
Yeah. Batman Beyond takes place in the future where Terry McGinnis is his name, yeah?
Yeah.
Basically gets picked by
Big
Batman.
brother of Matt McGinnis.
Yeah, big brother.
Actually, in the show. His little brother.
Yeah, that's true.
Matty McGinnis.
And
Friend of the show,
basically is like, you're going to be Batman. And Terry's like, okay, I'll be Batman. And then he's Batman.
It's
and
better.
awesome.
It's better than that.
You don't actually remember how the show starts, Steve.
I do because he
steals the
finds
Batman
him.
suit from the Batcave.
He
Yeah,
steals the
well,
Batman
because
suit. I wasn't giving. I didn't. I was like
His
leading
dad
it vague.
did.
It's the
Dad
first
dies.
episode.
The first
Dad
episode
gets
is
whacked by some.
there is a sex
corrupt-
metaphor in the first episode, and then Terry McGinnis steals the bat suit because his dad dies because a glowy dude. And
He's not glowy yet.
Is he not glowy?
God,
in the
you're
first?
just like ruining all of
Jesus
this.
Christ!
Just watch the show.
Just watch the goddamn show and leave. Let me go to bed. Jesus Christ! I've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm sick. I burnt the shit out of my hand I'm just not in good shape right now.
He's not doing well.
All right,
And I-
Chard.
Perfect time to aggravate.
It is. I came out here for you fucking people. God damn it.
Chard, what do you got?
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to pick 2 books.
God damn it, Chard.
But I already mentioned one of them. So again, like if you love the super bromance element of Kara and Stephanie in this book, like World's Finest does pick up a lot of those threads, and it does it in a cool way that makes you feel
And this
like
is the new 52 stuff.
yeah, the new 52 World's Finest. It's Helena Wayne of Earth 2, who is the daughter of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle, who's trained by Selena Kyle to be Robin, and she was Robin on Earth 2 in the new 52. That's not what it was, and she was Huntress originally in the pre-crisis era. But so she's Robin, and then she is best friends with Supergirl, who's Superman's cousin, and she and Robin escape Earth 2 and run away and hide on Earth 1 as Huntress and Power Girl. And it's a really good series. It's fun. It's just like them hanging out and being best friends, and like the difference between those two characters and what someone who's the cousin of Superman is like all about versus someone who's raised by Catwoman and Batman would turn out like. And I think it's a really cool issue. There's also some awesome moments where Helena Wayne meets Damian, and it's got like a very similar feel to, because Damian figures out that Helena knows all the Wayne passwords and is stealing all of Bruce Wayne's money to fund her crime fighting. And Damian figures it out and is like, I'm going to go stop this person. And so they meet, and they're like alternate universe stepbrother and sister.
Well, half brother and sister.
Half brother and sister. That's what it is. So they there's some good stuff in there, and I think that if you like what it's nowhere near as good as Batgirl. I mean, Batgirl we sang the praises of for near a half an hour, so it's nowhere. It's not going to be near that, but it'll scratch a lot of the same itch that this series was about. It's like strong representation of female characters, interesting stories, cool bromance moments, stuff like that. The other one is a book that I've also recommended before on the show, which is the Darwin Cook and Ed Brubaker's Catwoman. Go read that book. It's so good. Get that new printing of the trade that includes Selena's big score in it. It's an amazing story. Awesome female character who is...
which has been recommended on the show
Yeah,
by 2 of us a couple times.
It's so good. I talked about it on Out of the Fridge if you want to go listen to that show. And I loved it. It's so good. And I think everyone should read it. And if
It is
you
really
like
good.
kind of like what it's like when characters change, because this is Selena coming back from when she was dead, or supposedly. So it's,
And has Slam Bradley
It does
as
have
a
Slam
supporting character who you guys may or may not remember from Detective Comics number one.
Yep, I love Slam Bradley. And it's awesome. Darwin Cook's art's phenomenal, and just a great series. So definitely check those out.
Sweet.
Joe?
Joe
You
already went.
Toby?
me.
I'm tired.
We're down
I'm
to
going to
me.
recommend Prophet number 1.
You're just saying things you see
No,
in
I'm
the
not.
office.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time.
So I'm also going to cheat a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I get to pick the next book that we're talking about on the long run, which is also my recommendation if you like Stephanie Brown. So
Hold
this
on.
is a book
I have to
about
pick my brain up off the floor because you just blew my mind.
this is a book about a really great female character. She's young. She's coming into her own for the first time and kind of
Slam
being a
Bradley.
hero to a lot of people.
It is.
It's John Prophet. Now,
It's the touching tale of Slam Bradley as he explores the bloom of his young womanhood.
That was so wrong.
Let's never talk about that again. Toby, save us.
I can't. There's no hope for us. No.
I think I'm becoming a woman, Pop.
No, stop. It's so late. We lost it.
Oh, God. I'm sorry. I just broke everybody. I'm sorry.
My pick for the next long run is Nausicaa by Hayao Miyazaki.
Yes.
The best manga I have ever read in my entire life, and one of my top 3 favorite comic books overall. If you've seen the movie, you know part of the story.
Yes.
So for a long time, this was published in 7 graphic novels. The movie covered the first 2 of those. The story goes on for 5 further books, which
awesome.
It goes in an awesome direction. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and better all the time. It's a great series. It was just recently republished as 2 awesome hardcovers in this really nice slipcase. You can get it off of Amazon for, I think, less than $40.
Which you own now.
Yes, because Joe gave it to me for my birthday because he is an awesome fella.
So
Can we cut this part out?
no.
No.
You're really going to be like, what the fuck is he talking about?
So
I'll talk like Slam Bradley for the rest of the time.
stop.
Cut that part out.
We need to. Well, this is all being cut. We need a clean jumping on point. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
you're wasting all of our time.
You're wasting tape, Joe. So, yeah, it's a great series. It's beautifully drawn. Miyazaki does all the writing and illustration himself. He actually created this series specifically to raise money to make the anime, because at that time in Japan, like, they wouldn't make an anime unless there was a successful manga of it first. He was like, I guess I'll just make a successful manga of this so that people will let me make the movie I want to make.
That's awesome.
But he kept doing the manga afterwards and made a totally kick-ass story.
That's so cool.
And it's a lot of fun. And I hope that you guys enjoy reading it, since it's not 160 issues of fucking Robin from the 90s.
Yeah.
I don't see what's wrong with that.
I don't either.
God, fuck you, Slam Bradley.
Okay.
Hey, I was in Detective Comics #1.
And no one cares.
Nobody was in Detective Comics #1.
I was. Me, Slam
That isn't
Bradley.
a real
This is
number.
the worst Slam Bradley voice ever.
Well,
I was still a young woman then.
Good night, everybody. We'll
Bye.
see you in like a couple of months.
Good night.
Oh my god.
And also on the regular show.
Thanks for listening to our show, everybody. Special thanks to theouthousers.com for posting our episodes. You can always keep up to date with everything we're doing by checking out our website at viewfromthegutters.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. You can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at viewfrthgutters, and please be sure to leave us an iTunes review, as it really does help new listeners find the show. And thanks again for listening, and as always, keep reading.